In today's layout process video, we're going to play with lots and lots of pattern. I'll show you an epic fail from a product that I thought I knew what I was doing with and how it went wrong. And then I'll show you a recovery from a product that was hiding in my stash. All of this was inspired by this sketch as part of the Mix It Up Monday Hop group, and I'll tell you more about that as we go. Hello everybody, welcome to Crafty Soup. My name is Misty, where I create with paper and photos in artful ways. Alright, here are my photos. My family went to the Museum of Pop Culture in Seattle last summer, and we snapped some shots of some of our favorite pop culture icons. I did grab these images from the internet to kind of go with those photos and explain it a little bit more. I am pulling out my hexagon set, and I purposefully made those extra photos from the internet in hexagon shapes because that was definitely a part of the sketch. This piece of pattern paper I created on the 4th, and if you haven't seen that video, I will link you up to that. So I'm going to put this to use all with this sketch. And one of the first things I need to figure out is how to use these pattern papers to create those torn strips along the left-hand side of the sketch, as well as how I'm going to interpret all those hexagons. I did at first think about using circles instead, but some of my embellishments from this set of supplies also included some hexagons, and so I knew I wanted to print my photo with hexagons and just go ahead and use that from the sketch. So as I sort through some of this kit of supplies, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to use everything in there, but we'll see what works and what doesn't. I did have to pull from my stash some alphas, and I like to mix and match my fonts, so I have that. And then here is the danger product. This is called Pearl-X, and what I thought I was using was something called Perfect Pearls, and we'll get to all of that a little bit later. All right, up first is figuring out orientation for my base paper, orientation for my torn strips, how I want to layer all of these patterns. And so I'm just going to pick out some papers and then start tearing. I like to tear towards me because that leaves more of this whitish edge on the side. So the piece that I tore off, I will flip it over to get that white side, but the pieces that I want to keep, I'm sure to tear towards me so that I get that more roughed up edge. All right, with a whole bunch of pattern paper strips torn off from both the A sides and the B sides of these papers, and when I built this kit of supplies, I did not necessarily intend to use both sides of the paper, but sometimes it works out that way, and I'm happy when it does. So getting these all stacked up into enough contrast between the layers of the pattern is what I'm looking for there, and then I can just start gluing everything together. And then I've got that block of paper. I am going to rough up any straight edges. I'm going to curl up any of the torn edges, and then I can go ahead and glue that entire block down to my base page. Now I did go with perpendicular stripes here with the torn stripes and the paper stripes, and that kind of creates a little bit of an L shape to the design. Once I had all of the pattern down, I realized it was a little bit much, and maybe I should have kept everything going in the same direction, but we'll see how I solve that in just a little bit. Okay, next up is matting my photos. I did debate between white matte and orange matte. The white shows off the photos better, but the orange pops off the back of the layout better, so in the end I decided to go ahead and go with the orange, and I'm hoping that I'll highlight those photos a little bit more through other techniques. All right, vellum. Because the background was getting so very busy, I did pull out a piece of vellum from my stash. It has a little bit of an orangey tint to it. It's not a plain white vellum, and I'm going to use that to kind of tone down the background just a little bit. In addition, I'm going to take the opportunity to use scraps to create more hexagons with my die set, and I use scraps of the pattern paper as well to create more hexagons. I'm not going to end up using all of those, but we'll see how it all wraps up together. All right. That vellum wasn't quite thick enough to blur the background quite enough, so I'm going to pop up my photo block on some foam tape, and then I decide to go ahead and do 2 layers of foam tape, because that's going to give me the chance to pop up some of those hexagons behind that layer on 1 layer of foam tape. And then I turn to my mixed media. All right, I told you this product was called Pearl X, and I think this was kind of the original Mica E powder, and then Ranger later came out with their own version called Perfect Pearls. I think that's how the history played out. Correct me if I'm wrong. But I thought this had a binding agent in it, and so when you mix it with water, it activates that binding agent and will hold that powder to your project. I was very, very wrong about this because Pearl X is lacking that binding agent, and Perfect Pearls are perfect because they already have that binding agent in it. However, I did not know that yet, and I set this off to the side to dry, and I'm working on my title block. I thought I was going to do a very elaborate block and put this on the layout. I'm going to tone it down just a little bit as I go, and you'll see how that works out. I am creating a tag for my journaling because I like to make sure I have space for that when I'm working. And here is where I realized this powder was not sticking. I could just completely wipe it off of everything. And this took a long time to do and a long time to dry, and I was feeling very annoyed. And I did take a break. And then I came back and I looked in my stash, and I've used a lot of similar products before, but I realized I had this Gilding flake, which I got in a class, and I haven't really used it since that class. So I pulled out this glue, which is a two-way glue from scrapbook.com. It stays tacky when it's dry. That's why it's called a two-way glue. I like to tap this onto a non-stick sheet that's left over from foam dots and things like that so that it doesn't soak into a scratch piece of paper. It'll just kind of sit on that surface. And then I can just use my finger to tap it off. It is very, very sticky and hard to clean. I use some alcohol to wipe it off my surfaces and my fingers once it's dry because you cannot wash that stuff off very easily. So once it is dry on my project, it will remain tacky, like I said, and then I can kind of burnish and press these Gilding flakes down into that sticky glue. And here's where I do more burnishing with this little sponge. And this was a technique, like I said, that I learned from a class where I got these products. So I haven't done this very much. I'm not sure that I like it. It is very messy, especially with the two-way glue. And you have a lot of leftover of these flakes going on, which is not as bad as glitter is, but it is still messy. And here's what it looks like once you've got it burnished down. So I do like the look of it, but as you can see, I've got a lot of leftover mess. If I had put a sheet of paper down underneath me to catch the excess, that would have been better. But as you can see, it's pretty easy to just scoop it up and put it back in the bin. So the reviews are still out on this product. I don't know how I feel about it. All right, I am doing some of the edges of the rest of my elements, my tags, my title, my hexagons, so that I have that gold kind of working around everywhere. I am backing each of those extra internet photos with more vellum that has that gilded edge on those hexagons. And that'll help those photos definitely stand off the background a little bit better. And I'm arranging them next to the photo that they go with from our museum trip so that you can kind of get a sense of the pop culture show reference that is from each of those photos. And I will add a little bit more journaling to this later because I haven't figured out how I wanted to do it yet. I thought about putting more little tags from like my title tag and my journaling tag, but I don't like the sizing of them, so I may add something down the road. Maybe before I get the final photos up on this at the end of this video. I'm not sure. All right, now I'm starting to feel like things are working. It is still a very, very busy layout, and I'm okay with that. I know a lot of my layouts are a little overwhelming sometimes, even to me. But part of it for me is the process of doing all of these things and experimenting with things that I haven't tried before. And so, yes, I like the finished product. Yes, I like having my story told. Yes, I like it when it is beautiful and clear and uses all of those design elements nicely, but I also enjoy the process. So sometimes that holds up more than the finished product. And in the end, it's okay. It is a little bit busy, but it's okay. All right, so I had that title block done with this little frame, and I'm going to kind of tone it down a little bit because there's just not enough room. So I need to create some tucking going on here. I have the word nerd on there, and I will spice that up a little bit more because it is a little bit hard to read. I did glue that down on top of some leftover threads from that background paper that I created. And I like the texture of it, but now the title is a little bit lost, so I will work on that in a minute. I do want to add more gilding to my journaling tag because I forgot to do that along the way. And luckily, this doesn't take the dry time as the mica powders do. So that's kind of the benefit of this technique. There's no real dry time because that glue really is so tacky that it dries really fast. All right, and then I'm just wrapping up everything with a few of these elements. And what I liked about this set of puffy stickers is that it had some circles with stars on them, and I'm putting 1 star. I'm kind of rating our fandom photos here with between 1 star and 3 stars for, least favorite to most favorite. And I liked having that little detail on there. Will people get it when they read the page? I hope so, but that's why those are there. All right, and that wrapped up my filming version of this layout. Oh, no, it didn't. I realized that I was hiding some of the elements from that background paper that I took time to create. And so I realized I could tear off some of that vellum and kind of re-expose some of those elements so that it's not completely hidden. All right, and I think that finishes off the filming portion. I do a few things off camera so you can see those details here in these close-up photos. I hope you enjoyed this layout process video. I want to encourage you to go check out everyone on the Hop that is part of the Mix It Up Monday group. And if you want to join the group, totally free group, all those links are down in the description. Until I'm back much later in the week, I hope you have an artful day.